We haven't had a trick or treat for a long time.
Yeah, you, out there, you save your candy there. Yeah.
Hi, David.
I can't see you, but I gave you copies.
Oh, yeah. I gotta get these glasses back up.
What you looking for?
Well, you can tell the time.
It is 6 o'clock.
Oh,
We're ready to go.
we're ready to go. Good evening and welcome to the Grant County Board of Zoning Appeals for October 7th, 2024. If you would, all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, could we have a roll call for attendance, please?
Atkins?
Yes.
Johnson?
Here.
Jones?
Here.
Long?
Here.
Pearson?
Here.
Hartman?
Here. Okay. Next on the agenda is approval of the minutes for August 5th, 2024.
You're gonna speak, boy, you can do it. You don't like the changes.
On the legal description of Bragg Avenue, need to make a correction on the minutes that says, I believe Lois and I voted against it. And that we are all on the voted yes motion. You need to make a correction on that.
Okay, now which one is that? Is that the Airbnb?
Yeah. It's on the back.
Yes.
Right on the back, right there.
Okay, on the back, there was,
On docket 5.2.1
Chip and I voted no.
on the Bragg Avenue. Should be at the bottom of the page.
It's on the second page or back.
Yes.
yeah, when I look at that, am I reading it wrong here? It looks to me like it says, Mr. Long, Mr. Johnson, Mrs. Jones, Mr. Atkins, Mr. Pearson, Mr. Young voted yes, motion carried.
Chip and I
Not
voted
correct.
no.
You and Chip voted no.
No.
Oh, I misunderstood. I thought you were saying you voted yes.
Oh,
Okay, so that needs to be changed to Mrs. Jones and Mr. Long voted no. Okay, are there any other additions or corrections to the minutes?
I'd like to have after we okay the minutes, I'd like to have a little talk, just a little talk about that.
Okay,
Need a motion?
yes, without any further discussion, is there a motion on the minutes then?
I have to make a motion that we apply the proper corrections.
Yeah, Would you like to approve the minutes as corrected?
That's correct.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Can we have a roll call, please?
Atkins?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
Long?
Yes.
Pearson?
Yes.
Motion carried. Okay, Mr. Johnson.
Well, I just wanted to know, we talked about that Airbnb. I know he said he didn't trust him and she had feelings about it. And I walked past there and it's been 2 months. Not a thing's happened. Not a thing happened. So do we ever put a time limit on this? How long can they keep it up and say, wait a minute, we said you could do it, now nothing's happening, it's still, everything's the way it was 2 months ago. Now, he probably had kids or people in there, but it's still the same, so I'm sorry that I kind of voted against it, the way it looks.
Well, you brought up can I continue with that story?
Yes.
Is there a follow-up on these kinds of things?
That's what I'm going to get.
Can I answer? Sorry. We normally give people at least 90 days before we go and check on it. Just because I know there's things that need to get done on their end and things like that. So I would have went and looked in about 90 days.
Well, maybe we can't do it on this one, because it's kind of slipped through, but maybe we'll do it in the next time. I don't know. I don't know if there's anything we can do. If you are 90 days and you're already doing it, I'm thinking it's going to go in the winter. It's just going to be the same.
Do you want me to call him and see what's going on and let you guys know?
Yeah.
That's-
I think that'd be fine
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not up to me.
to
That's-
touch base with them.
I can do that.
Yeah. Just as a follow-up.
But not only on this property, but the ones that have come through this board.
Yeah. Should we not put a time limit to what I'm saying? It
Well,
sounds like
she's
he already-
telling me 90 days.
But should we tell them
Okay.
while they're up there saying, we'll give you 90 days? I mean, that's what our words.
Okay. Then do
That's
we
what I'm
need to give
saying.
them
I don't know
an
if
amendment
that's
or
legal or
something
not, but
Can't we apply conditions then?
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We can apply conditions.
Or amend something.
Can we do that, Dave?
I thought, were there conditions that were put in on this one? I can't remember.
I don't remember conditions, do you?
No.
If there are conditions, we can absolutely follow up to make sure they're being complied with.
Well,
If there's no
that's what I'm saying.
conditions.
We probably let them
Yes.
slide through.
Yeah, you could put conditions on, like I think the Beagles, the next one, there were conditions that were put on that one.
Yeah.
And
Finish the
that one, we
septic.
can absolutely follow up and make sure. If not, then they're not in compliance. They can be issued some sort of a ticket for
Well,
it.
that's what I'm saying. Not only on this property, but the things that come across this board, are we following up on what we voted on?
That I,
Yes, it gets put on the permit, what you guys vote on, especially if there is conditions. And I make sure to bold letters on that list, make sure it gets done.
Okay.
So it is getting followed up on.
And maybe he worked on it today, but it's not the last month. Okay. But I walk that way.
Can we have some kind of amendment or something, a clause or something, put it when they apply for these Airbnbs that, there are certain things that we're gonna put in there that they need to abide by.
We'd have to do something with the area-wide zoning ordinance as make a recommendation to the APC. I'm willing to explore that. Another thought is, do we give a year for a remodel permit to be completed or
You get 2 years.
2 years? Okay. That's pretty far out, so we're accepting quite a bit on that. Depending on the extent of a remodel permit or a room addition, I assume is the same. But if he's using it as an Airbnb before he's doing the work, that's kind of a question.
See, I don't know that.
Yeah.
Right. And that needs to be, like you said, revisit that ordinance and maybe stick some stuff in there that we need to.
He pretty well committed to fixing the place up, from what I remember.
Well, that's what I understood.
Yeah.
But I remember also how the past of the property's been.
Yeah.
So
That puts
that's
a
why I
renter in,
voted no.
puts a renter in and forgets about it,
Yeah,
was kind of what
all the money.
we were all hearing anyway.
That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah. Well,
But I'm satisfied with 90 days.
yeah, I think follow up.
Yeah, I think
just
that's
to-
great. I just want to make sure, but I don't, we let him do the crack. I was part of it, and I don't like it.
I can still call him if you want.
Okay.
I think follow-up call would be good, just to
Do
start
we have
out
that
with,
put on
have
the
you
agenda for
begun?
review next meeting?
What's that?
Just have it put on the agenda
Yeah,
for
and
review?
then you can tell us what you've heard.
Yeah.
It may be, I haven't done anything and I haven't rented it to anyone, or it may be something other than that.
Completely expensive.
I've started on it and I haven't got much done. Or it could be,
Can I
who
offer one
knows?
more suggestion based
Yes.
on this conversation? Since we're reviewing the master plan now, some of these issues might be good to look at as we're doing that also on follow-up procedures, et cetera. If we're gonna amend the ordinance, do it all at once.
Yeah, we'll have to, we should probably look at what state code says on the Airbnbs, make sure we don't get in conflict with that. But yeah, I think we could put something recommended to the APC and they can take a look at it. Okay, all right. Good discussion. We'll follow up on that next month. All right. Okay, moving on, the next thing on the agenda was the findings of fact. Docket 4, BZA V 24, Ryan and Amy Beagle. Now, as a side note in our findings here, there was completion of a septic permit by the health department. Signed off on May, so, okay.
So, we're not gonna do the facts or finding on the Airbnb until we hear something?
Well, our findings from that hearing, we should probably go ahead and do them, I think.
I'd really not, I'd rather wait till
You want to wait?
we hear something for the next meeting, you know?
Well, I don't want them to get lost, because if she comes back and says nothing's done, we're gonna delay again, or these were our findings anyway. We're kind of stuck with that. I don't know that, David, are we allowed to change findings if the next meeting we want to follow up? We still had these findings and made that decision to pass it.
The findings should reflect what was found at the meeting.
Yeah.
And the meeting's already happened, so if they reflect, I'm not sure you can amend and go back. I think that would be bad practice.
Yeah, I agree.
Maybe
But we still
I
can
missed
make
that
it good.
meeting, so I don't have to worry about finding effects, correct?
Say that
I
again.
missed the meeting when,
No, yeah.
so I don't do finding
No,
effects.
if you weren't there, then you wouldn't know, correct?
You guys were busy that day.
Well, I think according to our findings, we did find favor of it. Now, if we find out later things aren't going well, that's a different matter, but it doesn't change our findings on that hearing.
It sounds like not till 90 days.
Not till at least 90 days.
Yes.
And then we can begin some other kind of action possibly, but we passed these findings. You know,
Well, we said that they could have a sink,
on the, yeah, on the,
Right.
right, on,
Yes.
and they've already did that.
yes.
So that's,
Yeah,
they've
and
done
they-
what we said they were gonna do.
And they did the septic system and that's signed off on, so there's no reason why it can't go forward. I think both of them we've done. We need to,
So do you need want that to be voted on? Or do we need a vote?
yeah, I think we should make a motion to,
I make a motion that we accept the fact find we're doing.
you want to do them separately or? I think we probably do it separately, Ryan and Amy Beagle. Do we have a second?
I'll say,
Okay. Have a roll call, please.
Atkins,
Abstain.
Johnson,
Yes.
Jones,
yes,
Long,
Yes,
Pearson,
Yes.
Motion passed. Then 03SP-24 Desert Cedar LLC, Eric J. Wood. Do we have a motion on that one? You can make a motion either way. You can make a motion to pass it or turn it down. Or table it.
I'd like to have a phone call. That'll do it. Make me feel better. I think I got hot on there. I really do.
You want to table it?
I would.
You have a motion, you want to make a motion to table it?
I make a motion, we table 035T-24.
Do we have a second?
a second,
Can we have a roll call, please?
Atkins,
I think I abstain from this one also.
Johnson,
Yes.
Jones,
yes,
Long,
yes.
Pearson,
Yes.
Okay, we'll take that one up again next month, and we'll see what comes of your phone call. Okay, then. All right, now we're going to move on to some things that we have taken some action on, and we'll try and move further along with this. Now, the first one would be to change the area-wide zoning ordinance to align with State Code 3674920BG. Before any final BZA decision, all petitioners must request the participating community place their petition on the next available regular meeting agenda to be heard and provide the BZA with a recommendation signed by the executive. This is a recommendation only. The Board of Zoning will be the entity to approve or deny the petition. And to replace it with IC 3674920G, which is state code. Wording from it is a person may not communicate with any member of the board before the hearing with intent to influence the member's action on a matter pending before the board. Not less than 5 days before the hearing, however, the staff, as defined in the zoning ordinance, if any, may file with the board a written statement setting forth any facts or opinions relating to the matter. And basically what that does is pull away from someone trying to influence the board. And that could be another board. It could be a board of commissioners. They used to give recommendations to us. And if you remember, I don't know if it's been a year, but I brought this up and we voted to curtail any recommendations. And we never did actually take this language to that area-wide zoning ordinance and get it changed through the APC, get their approval on it to change it, which I think that should probably go right through since we're trying to align with state code and be in compliance with that. So anyway, do we need to have a motion to move that forward to the APC? Would that be customary, you think?
Yeah, I would think I would have a motion, with the motion being to recommend that change. Then it'll have to go to APC, then I think probably the commissioners will eventually have to approve any change to the area-wide zoning ordinance.
Correct. Which they have at this point not sent any further recommendations. So, is there discussion of this?
Now, this Indiana code only applies to the BZA, or does it go beyond
It
that?
applies to the BZA. It does not apply to the APC. They have a slightly less stringent code. Hearing no comments of the board, public comment. Coming up, Mr.
I was just curious, if it passed here tonight, could we approve it at the APC meeting tonight, or does it have to like go through the whole cycle of notice and everything? This is just a recommendation. It'd be nice if we could move things along, I guess.
Along a little quicker since
Yeah.
we've already taken a year.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I understand your thought there. I mean, I could stay for the next meeting and present it, but I don't actually have it put out in a resolution to the APC. Probably next month would be best.
Okay, that's fine.
Is this
I would leave
subject
that
to a
to the
public
chairman's
hearing?
discretion, yeah.
Is this subject to a public hearing?
I wouldn't think so, not something like this.
Okay.
Would be subject to a public hearing. I mean, it's always, you certainly could do, I mean, let me rephrase that. It will be done in a public hearing also. I think your question is, should it be advertised for the public hearing? I don't think it needs to be, certainly it needs to be done in a public hearing. You're just making a recommendation anyway,
Okay.
that it be changed.
Okay.
And I support your recommendation. Our agenda's pretty full for tonight.
Okay.
If you have that on the agenda for next meeting, then make sure it gets put on.
So do we have a motion to approve this? Or do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion
Okay,
aligning with state code.
John Pearson has made the motion
I'll second.
and Lois Jones has seconded. We have a roll call, please.
Atkins,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Long,
Yes,
Pearson,
Yes.
Motion passed.
Let me make one more comment on this.
Yes.
I think legally, what you've done actually is much more in line with what the statutes contemplate anyway, with what your powers are versus the bodies who may or may not do this.
Mhm.
It just makes a lot more sense this way.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Next one, remove language from the area-wide zoning ordinance for minor variances. BZA already voted for the recommended change. If you remember, we had some discussion on that, and the board decided that all variances, special exceptions, but variances should come to the BZA. It's just, we don't have too much to do. This is normally reserved for expediency, like if you had a backlog of cases to get resolved. It makes sure that we also go through the correct procedure of making sure that it's advertised, there's a public hearing, the public is notified, adjacent landowners are notified so that they have a chance to be at the hearing. It puts that into the good format that we normally use, and that's why we already voted for it, if I remember all the discussion correctly. Same thing. Do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion, Chairman.
We have a motion from Mr. Adkins. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
And what are we voting on now?
We are voting to remove minor variance, the alternate method of passing a variance, and having them all come to the BZA.
Okay.
Public comment?
So that's 5-2-1.
I have a question.
Mr. Saltz?
I do.
Yeah, 5-2-1.
Put something in my head here. Jerry Schultz in Marion, Indiana. Did I hear you say something about the neighbors being notified?
Yes.
What happens if the neighbors aren't notified? What curtails in when an action is taken, voted on, and the neighbors that have had concerns, we're supposed to have had a certified letter, we're supposed to be notified, and didn't get notified. What happens then? And after it's over, they're told it's a moot point, it's done, there's nothing else to be done about it. What can or can't be done about that? I mean, who follows up on the certified letters to make sure that they were received or came back, or who follows up on some of that stuff?
That's a situation.
Can of worms,
Yes.
I'm just asking a question.
Yep. That's a situation that recently occurred, we understand, and we had trusted the office to follow up. The letter was actually mailed and the receipt was actually returned. And in this case, that didn't happen.
I understand that, and I'm not beating on a dead horse, I'm just asking what.
I think what he's saying is, he wants to know that if he was supposed to receive a letter and didn't, who is responsible for that in the office, and to make sure that these people, neighbors, are notified?
Right.
So who is in the office that is responsible for that?
Ultimately, the secretary of our board, the executive director, is responsible.
Well, I think the other thing Jerry's
responsible for his
asking
staff.
is in the event that he wasn't notified, is that action become legal?
Right.
Right.
Until he is or other neighbors are notified, yeah, that's really that.
That's my question, is what the legality of it is, or what. I understand
Yeah.
it's done, it has been done. I understand that the director is gone. The letter was sent supposedly to a wrong address. I can't even find it was even sent through the post office. But it's just,
So,
Is this a pretty unique case, David, that there wouldn't be any case law to support this?
I would say it's very unique. I think once this change is made, that the office has to make sure that notice was given. They need to verify that. They should verify that before any petitions present, that all adjoining landowners were notified And if they weren't, the hearing should be continued until they are. If for some reason you have a situation where, for lack of a better word, fraud was perpetrated, then once this discretion is removed, then I think you might have to go back and redo it.
But I think there was a request to be asked for a report, the letter that was signed come back to the office. I think that was the request of the board, if I recall.
Yeah, the board last year passed that the notice had to be given by certified mail with return receipt.
Right.
And then we were assuming that that actually occurred. But in this instance, it didn't occur.
So what he said, what we want to make sure of is the fact is, if the director of the office, that's his job to make sure that everybody's been notified, if they not able to show up for some unknown reason, that should be canceled until that everybody can show up. Because otherwise, like he said, if a person's in a hospital, they can't help it, and they can't receive a letter or whatever. So that we should not have a meeting until all parties are present.
But is that just adjacent properties?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Adjacent property.
So, I mean,
What is the
you put down
criteria
a
for who
sign.
gets one?
Yeah.
So like with the one you guys have tonight, it's anything touching the property that surrounds it.
Okay.
But there's a difference between notice and being present. Our
Yes.
statutory duty is to give notice.
Yes.
And make sure we have in our file the cards on every single adjoining landowner. If they can't be present, that's on them. But our duty is to give notice. And that's why we should have a list of each adjoining property owner who was notified, then have a matching return receipt for each one of them. Then you can have the hearing once that's done.
But I have a question. Nobody can do anything about being ill. I mean, so if you're in the hospital and you haven't, you didn't receive the letter because you were in the hospital, is that fair to the person that?
I would suggest, I mean, of course, the board would have no way of knowing that. So I would almost say it would be incumbent on that person to contact the office, say, hey, I really have input, and either put it in the form of an affidavit, something like that, get it to the office or ask the office to delay it, or ask the board to delay it till they can be here to speak.
So that letter should come back to the office.
Absolutely, yeah, because otherwise you're not gonna know.
Right.
As long as everything is back and returned, then you can proceed with the hearing. If somebody comes up after the fact and says, well, yeah, I got notice, but I didn't appear because of this
Right.
reason, there's not much we can do about that
That's
legally.
quite true, but what we're saying is that,
Now, this particular meeting, when this was passed, was in January. And I didn't know it was going to be presented at the BZA meeting. I showed up at the area plan meeting. I was at the area plan meeting at 7:00, but I wasn't there at the 6:00 meeting. And we still didn't know that it had passed at that January meeting. I'd been sick prior to that quite a bit, but this particular meeting happened in January, I believe. It was passed in January. And I was at the APC meeting, but I still didn't get notice. So it needs to be looked at and taken care of. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, this certified mail, doesn't the recipient have to sign that they received it and that's what we get back?
That's what I'm talking, yes.
Okay,
That's
but
what we're saying.
what if the recipient wasn't home and they didn't sign it? Does that mean we can continue with our meeting? As long as we got evidence, will we have evidence that it was sent?
We tried.
The whole letter gets sent back to us if they didn't
it should
sign
be
for it.
returned.
Oh, so you'll get it back that way?
Yeah, they should be able to.
That would give us
back.
evidence that we
Yeah.
made an attempt, which would allow us to continue the meeting.
Right.
Okay,
And sometimes people just refuse to sign those green cards.
right. But we have evidence that we made an effort,
Yeah.
and then we could
Yeah.
continue the meeting. Because, if we don't get the receipt back
Yeah.
saying that, okay, just want to make sure that was clear.
Next.
Okay,
I'd like Randy's question to be answered. I don't think it was answered. I'm Todd Glancy from Fairmount, which was if all of the people did not get their notice with a certified letter, is the actions that were taken then legal or not? Wasn't that your question? That's a very good question.
Well, I know that's concerning Mr. Soltz, and I read that from.
Well, and I'm thinking outside of whatever the issue you're currently talking about, you know, is outside of that is sometimes who the mail deliverer will sign these cards and send them back in. That happens.
Say that one more time.
There are occasions where the postal carrier will sign, like the postal carrier's name on the card and send it in, and it's like, oh, it was delivered.
If they left it at the residence.
Right. I don't know where that stands, legalities, right?
Would that be,
That doesn't sound very
does that
good.
sound like forgery?
Yeah.
Or did he
That's
sign,
why I asked
did he sign his name and leave it there?
Right.
But didn't sign the person who was addressed to's name?
Right. They signed their own name. The
They signed their
postal
own
carrier
name.
signed their own
Okay.
name.
Yeah.
That's deliberate.
You know, that turns into individual, you gotta go start looking at these things, but when you get into, you know, bigger issues where there's a large amount, like they're sending out for a project and then it goes out for a mile or whatever circumference of people that are affected, you have a lot of these. And then, you know, the comeback is, well, we've got 75% of the cards came back. Is that good enough? And Randy, the question you asked then is really critical, is if not everyone got notified, right? Then is the action that is taken by whatever agency or board, is that legal or not?
If they made an effort, if we make an effort, we have to understand we made an effort.
Right.
So they have to understand they have to make an effort too. It's a two-way street.
Absolutely, absolutely. If that letter was delivered, right, and they signed for it, then it's up to them, right? They have to make their effort to come in. But if they were never notified, right, the letter kept coming back or something. And then, you know, if they passed away or, you know, moved or something, they would never come back and confront it. But then when they come back to confront it, I've seen these cases coming out where they're going, I never received this letter, but I've got the card. Oh, whose name's on that? Oh, it's your postman's name on it. Well, but they were never informed. You see what I'm saying?
There's another issue here too, is it's, if you're dealing with a large number of mailings, it's never gonna be 100%, most likely.
But the
Because of the
rare
amount of
occasion,
time
right?
that you have to deal with. You've got about 1 or 2 shots maybe to get that address and then get it mailed back, because we're not doing this months in advance. These things come up and then they get on the next meeting agenda. But every single one of them really should be delivered and come back, because we're paying a big premium for this service. So, you know, at least a couple attempts should be made before it comes back blank. But it should come back.
And I think it'd be a rare case, right, that someone doesn't receive it and then realizes that there's a problem, right? By the time they realize the problem, the action has been taken.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Do they have a recourse? That's the question.
Yes. David.
You're the man here.
That's David's thing.
We're going to ask that the audience doesn't ask Mr. Glickfield.
Oh, I'm sorry.
If they should like to do that.
But it was a very good question. It still comes down to the question that Randy posed. That I was really waiting for.
I'll kind of fall back to one thing, that when we conclude a meeting, actions taken in the meeting stand.
Okay.
Even if they're sometimes wrong or have minor problems, it doesn't take away your chance to litigate it.
Okay.
You know, but as far as what occurred, if nothing corrected it during the meeting and the problem wasn't even known, the action stands.
Okay. That gets clarity.
Yeah, and the BZA can be overturned by the circuit court or the superior court.
So they have a right, that's what the appeals are for.
That's-
Yeah. So that's what- that's what
I'm very
that-
confident that our office will do due diligence to see that
Oh, yeah.
And normally, we're not dealing with more than 4 or 5 probably being sent out and returned. Would you say that's a fair statement?
Yeah. I think it's a rare thing.
Adjacent
we're
properties, yeah.
Asking about. But
You never
it's
know.
those rare things.
But it happens.
It causes a big problem.
Yeah, it
Exactly.
happens.
Yeah.
And we moved to the mail with return, certified mail with return receipt, because previously it was just send it out in US mail. And
And you would paying
And
somebody
that-
else to do that, to take it over.
that did leave us sometimes wondering, well, people showed up and said, I never got notified. Kind of like, oh, but somehow, by the sign or by word of mouth or some other way, you got here, and we're like, well, we sent it out, but they say they didn't get it. So, and then you're left with not knowing what's wrong with your system. But, so to tighten it down, we did pass that. Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you. Any further public comment? Okay. All right. I believe we had a motion on the floor to pass this minor variance discussion, right? And we had a second
That's 5.
by Mrs. Jones, and it was 5.2.1.
Yes.
And the motion was to pass this on to the APC to approve and pass on to the commissioners to approve. Can we have a roll call, please?
Atkins,
yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Pearson.
Yes.
Motion approved. How are we doing on our time? Okay, 6:42. All right. All right. The next one, 5.2.3. Change it. This is Indiana Code 3674918.5, Part 3, to a stricter standard than the practical difficulties standard prescribed by this subdivision. Recommend change to an unusual and unnecessary hardship. That's in the detail on one of the last pages. Okay. This one here is concerning variances. State law recently changed on this. The BZA shall approve or deny variances. IC 3674918.5 from the development standards of this chapter. A variance may be approved under this section only upon a determination in writing that, 1, the approval will not be injurious to public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community, and 2, the use or value of this area subject to the property included in the variance will not be substantially, that's the word that's added in state code recently, adversely affected. Okay, so we need in the area-wide zoning ordinance to add the word substantially adversely affected. Okay, that's the change that was in state code. The need for the variance arises from some condition peculiar to the property involved and does not exist in similar property in the same district. And 2020 S9 zoning 173-4, the strict application of the terms of the chapter will constitute an unusual and unnecessary hardship as applied to the property for which a variance is sought. Okay, we as a board could recommend to the APC that we establish the stricter standard rule from the previous language. The word substantially should be added to the ordinance, which will align with state code. But we could also stay with the unusual and unnecessary hardship rather than change to practical difficulties. Is everybody clear on that?
Let's do that unusual again, Ed.
Okay. What we had previously was an unusual and unnecessary hardship. State code has recently been changed to practical difficulties, a lesser standard for the property, which a variance is sought. They made substantially adversely affected. They made it more difficult to oppose a petition. What I am saying and recommending is that we stay with the old language for an unusual and unnecessary hardship. And that is because in state code, it says you may establish a stricter standard rule.
Yeah, I understand
So
that.
I'm saying if you make it harder to oppose, maybe we would want to make it harder to get that variance. That you can't just say it's practical difficulties, that there is an unusual and unnecessary hardship, something unique about that property that makes you need a variance to do what you want.
A creek,
What's that?
a hill or a creek or whatever.
Yes, something like, yeah, it would be a hardship for me to build the house on the hill because it slopes away. So I need a variance to move it a little bit closer to the road instead of the 25 feet or 30 feet or whatever it is from the road. One property was 40 feet. And we were hearing this, if I had to be 40 feet away from the road, I'd have to build on the hill. That makes it very difficult. That'd be a hardship, a lot greater cost and difficulty.
But practical difficulties,
Practical difficulties is what they've changed it to, and we're kind of like, that sounds much easier and vague.
sound vague to me.
So
What are
could we pass
practical
it without necessarily declaring a hardship? Does
Say
it
that
require
again, Randy.
hardship to be
What-
passed?
Yeah, I would say you would want to declare a hardship of some sort to pass it. You would want to say, this is going to cost me a lot more. It's way over budget for me. I can't do it unless I get this variance.
And that's the petitioner's burden.
That would be the
to convince
petitioner's
us of
burden
that.
to prove the need for the variance. Just like the person opposing it has
All
to
three has to be present for you
substantially
to
adversely.
approve it. 1, 2, and 3 have to be present for you to approve it. You've always operated under the stricter standard. Now, the legislation has changed to where you can make it a more strict standard. The legislation has changed to make it the second or the third finding easier. So the issue is, do you want to keep it the way you're doing it, or do you want to make it easier
You
for
have any
the
thoughts on
applicant
that,
to get the
David?
variance?
You have any thoughts?
I always think that, and again, all three of these have to be present for you to do it. I mean, I don't think it's ever been a problem in the past. You've never had an issue with it before. If someone actually has the unnecessary hardship, they can state their case. So it seems to me like it makes the most sense just to keep it that way.
We only bring it to our attention due to a change in code.
Correct.
Right, correct. We need to change and align with Indiana code, and the Indiana code gives us the ability to change the second part and make it hardship rather than practical difficulties. Is there further board discussion? Do we have a motion?
I'd say we keep with what we got with the hardship, because practical difficulties mean nothing to me. Everybody got difficulty.
Right.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the change.
I'll
Do we have a
second that.
John Pearson seconds. Public comment? Hearing none. We have a roll call, please.
Atkins?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes,
Long?
Yes,
Pearson?
Yes,
Motion passed.
and we had this situation that he did. He was gonna build a barn, have a creek or something like that in the back, so.
Mr. President, may I ask another question?
Yes.
I think that language is already in the area-wide zoning ordinance, so I don't think any further action needs to be taken.
Yes, on that second part. Right, substantially, have they
That's what the
added
ordinance
that?
already says, right?
They've already added substantially as well?
Well, the legislation put the practical difficulties, but our
Right.
ordinance doesn't have that. So I don't think anything else needs to be done. I just want to make sure there's no other follow-up because the area-wide zoning ordinance already has the language in that you just supported.
That
Yeah, the
require
second
APC or commissioner.
Right, it wouldn't require any approval, yes.
I don't think it has substantially adverse manner on the first part in there.
You would have to take it to have it added.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay,
I wasn't exactly sure what it said. I just wanted to clarify.
all right. Okay,
You guys good with that?
okay. Okay. All right. On the director's report, oh, there was one other one. I'll try and be brief on this one. Also, page 156 in the area-wide zoning ordinance, it says here, the director does have the authority granted by the BZA to approve minor variances. This is 153.095. It's not in your packet. I found this late. Through 153.105. This is just where it's mentioned the minor variances again, and it's really not a correct thing to have in there, especially since we just voted to remove that. But to in a different area, it says by the BZA to approve minor variances. That's kind of a mistaken way to put it because it had to be approved by the APC. So that language we should remove as well. Do we have a motion to approve that?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve.
Motion by Lois Jones. Do we have a second?
I can second that.
Second by Randy Atkins. Public comment? Okay, do we have a roll call, please?
Atkins?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes,
Long?
yes,
Pearson?
yes.
Motion passed. Okay. You'll also note we did have permit accounting of July and August here. Is there any questions on the permits issued report?
I do have one question.
Okay.
If there's a whole bunch of roofs there.
Yes.
If they're paying for a roof, you're changing roof, can they fix on the bottom of it? Even though they're working on the roof, usually you're working on the side or the windows.
Oh, you mean like replacing plywood?
Yeah. When it said roof, I don't know what that entails. We got a roof, but
I think that's normally done.
Match faucet.
Are you talking about
For the gutter.
Yes, if the decking's rotted,
Sometimes the deck
discovered.
gets replaced, sometimes it doesn't.
Well,
It
that's
just
what I'm saying,
depends.
but
The roof permit doesn't allow them to remodel the whole house.
no,
No,
but they
just the
can.
roofing and gutter.
But I
That
know,
just includes the roof.
Yes,
And the decking.
Would that include the facial and the soffit
Yeah.
on the
Yes.
overhang? So that should all be included in the roofing.
well, that's what I want to make sure, the roof.
Yeah, because if there's, like rotten boards on the side, I've got a neighbor up where I live that her metal fascia fell off years ago and now all the wood is, the ash gray and it's deteriorating. So when she got her new roof permit up by where I live, that included all that stuff.
That's all I want to know is what intel of the roof.
Yeah.
A lot of them being changed.
Do we have a definition of roof, do we have a definition for roof repair? That says exactly what that covers?
Well, not if they're saying it's rotten around the edge, they've got to replace that too.
But do we have a,
I,
you know,
I'm not really sure how to answer your question yet. For the simple fact, a roof permit normally means whatever it takes to repair that roof. If the side moldings or if the underlayment or if the plywood sheeting under that is rotten, then part of that replacement would be to do all that stuff.
do we have,
Years ago, we didn't worry about things like ice and water shield.
yeah.
So, now that's part
Now
of the
that's
code
part
where it
of it,
has to be done.
Mm-hmm.
So, we go out and we look at that to make sure that's been done.
Yep.
Because even when we go out and do our, when we go out to look at the prep before, like you can look at a roof and you can see where there's dips in it, where the sheeting underneath has gotten wet for whatever reason and the plywood is starting to let go. So, we're going to assume when we go back to do the follow-up that we're going to look at that area to see if that actually got done. So is there a flat definition for a roof? A roof just means a roof.
Okay, that's what I'm saying.
Are we out of time or can I ask one more
We
question?
got about 3 minutes.
Okay. If you're coming in there and saying they're gonna do a roof, and it's the cheapest, is that the cheapest?
it's a flat rate, it's 25.
What they go back and start doing windows and doors?
No, that's not here.
We don't cover windows unless they change the size, and we don't cover siding.
So if you want to replace your, let's say your sliding door out to your patio, as long as you don't change the size of the opening, that doesn't require a permit. Windows are the same way. If you don't change the size, that doesn't require a permit.
That's all I want to know.
Maintenance. Okay. All right.
Do you want to cover the resolution on water?
Yeah, we do have a resolution here on our rules for small boards. Okay, y'all have it there. I believe it's the second page. Okay. And the first page was the APC. Second page is us. Grant County Board of Zoning Appeals desires to establish regular rules of operation for their meeting, whereas the Grant County Board of Zoning Appeals believes an abbreviated form of Robert's Rules of Order should be adopted. Now therefore be it resolved that the abbreviated form of Robert's Rules of Order attached hereto as Exhibit A shall be followed to conduct the procedure of the Grant County Board of Zoning Appeals meetings. I will sign off on this.
We'll take a vote on that real quick.
Yeah. Do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion to approve by Mr. Adkins. And who was the second? Mrs. Jones, thank you. Any further comment, public comment?
Do we have a resolution number?
I think this is the first one.
I think it's our first one for the year. So the resolution number 1. Okay. We have a roll call, please.
Atkins?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
Long?
Yes.
Pearson?
Yes.
Very good, thank you. Any further public comment at this time? We'll have to make it short. Hearing none, all in favor say aye if you wish to adjourn.
Aye.
Opposed, no? Meeting adjourned, thank you.
Yes.
There you are.
What's your name?
Yep.
You can leave that.
You just got my name.
I did not, I dropped it in Richmond, thank you. If you want to get technical. I'm gonna keep dropping them, I'm not meant to do this like this. Maybe, maybe, if I have enough hands. Wait, you're right there. Yeah, I think that's it. And I'm gonna need another chair. How are you, John?
It's fine.
I'm glad they didn't change these, I'd be lost.
Well, some